Do you ever regret? I mean, it's not a trick, but it's a thing you can't do more than once or twice. And do you worry about a poem that's so brilliant in its process that it can't get reproduced and may strike somebody as a little too neat?
Well, I don't know about the neat problem. I guess I don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think about this poem, and I'm actually just before this, I incorrectly, but I tried to write a post to the forums.
No, you did it well.
I did it.
You just did it as Bob.
I did it as Bob.
Did we find it?
Yeah, I posted it to the discussion forums on Twitter.
And so I'm thinking about the poem and you know, because of the class and the forum and wanting to say something. And I'm about to say, and I signed off, and I said, I've got to go talk now. I thought I was going to be talking with Lynn about my life, but anyway, I got to go talk, and then at the end I'll say a few more things. And one thing I really have it in my mind to say is that I'm really quite convinced that this is the only one of these that I'm going to write.
Right.
I felt this. In a way, I mean, what I say in my post, I'll say it now, that I didn't know Leland Hickman very well. In fact, I only met him once, and he was a very kind of nervous, shy guy, and we shook hands, and that was about it.
He was in L.A., you were in Berkeley.
I think, yeah, and I think I was giving a reading down there, and anyway, but he was a fantastic editor, very heroic, just worked hard to finance this quite elegant, spacious, well-edited magazine, Temblor, that had like 200 pages per issue, or you know, a big substantial one. He typeset, he did the editing. There were never any typos. It was always interesting conjunctions of writers. So it was really a total good thing for the poetic community. And then I heard that he had AIDS, and so that he was dying, which was that was the instant
what
outcome.
That meant,
That's
yes.
what that meant then. Mm-hmm. And I felt like, I should respond in some way, and I didn't know what to say. I mean, I'm sorry you're dying. It seemed very lame, and so I came up with this somehow in the midst of this. I came up with this idea, and I knew that would somehow put everybody literally in that position of, just going along ordinary life and having it be cut off. And so I knew, I sort of knew right away, it was a good gesture on the personal level, and I knew it was a good form. I mean, I did a little monkeying around with 4 words, 3 words, 6 words, and 5 words was just the right amount to really get up ahead of steam. You could say all sorts of ordinary things, interesting things, and quite often it was a kind of, would lead you right to the cliff of, you weren't quite finished at 5 words, whereas 6 words you were finished. Anyway, so I just felt like, oh, this is really, this is good. I knew, and it was weirdly easy to write. It was like I could say anything, because all I had to do was say 5 words about being alive. My wife was at one point said, I'm going to Joe's for a few minutes, and I'm going to Joe's for. I'm going to Joe's for. 5 words. So it wasn't all like that, but it could be the most intense, melodramatic. Sorry, is this?
No, we'll figure that out. You're good.
Okay. I could be very emotional. I could be really hyper ordinary. I could do all sorts of things, and so, but I knew it was the. I mean, I didn't want to kind of copyright it, and then every time something sad happens, well, I'm going to write a 5-word elegy. I mean, so it was like the one time.
I think maybe we lost Mark. Yeah.
The one time that I was going to do this. I think I'm off the air too. But anyway, the one time I was going to do this, so that, along with it being very easy and weirdly satisfying, I was very interested. It was easy, and I was really interested, and I knew it was just going to be this one time I was doing it. So
what I'd like to do, Bob, since we're on the topic of that poem, is invite Anna, Max, Molly, Erica, each to say something about it and then get Bob to respond again. I put you guys on the spot, so I don't know if you have something to say, but Anna, you know that poem pretty well. You want to say something about it? Let's collect some comments about it and then go back to Bob. What do you think, Anna?
Well, I've just been thinking about, for the last couple minutes, what Bob just said, how each line is 5 words about being alive. It's breaking my heart right now. I don't know. I don't think I can say anything else.
So what struck you? Why is that so important?
Because if you're thinking of these as of each line as a 5-word elegy, I love that we then have that juxtaposition that it's not 5 words about being dead or 5 words about the sudden loss. It's 5 words about being alive, and that's
Death
what gets
happens in the blank spaces afterwards, and writing is living, is what you're saying. Yeah. Thank you, Bob. Very Steinian. Erica, any thoughts on this poem that you just want to throw out on the table so we can get Bob to respond?
I have to say I'm with Anna. I'm also really thinking about the idea of 5 words about being alive. And every time I read this poem, I'm stunned by the line breaks and how amazing it is that you get lines like a story familiar as on our wedding night So
it's funny. I mean, I feel like this mic is not on.
No, it's good.
It's good enough. You can hear.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, I somehow was in a weird position of. I mean, the composing part of me was a little bit free from the emotion that I was feeling and evoking, and but the composing part of me there was a weird. I hope this doesn't sound too weird to the memory of Lee Hickman, but a weird kind of glee that just, gee, how interesting it is to live for 5 words, and how many different things you can say with 5 words, and or how many different things you don't get to say them, but how many you can start to say with 5 words. And so I don't think I threw out any lines, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
I don't think so. I mean, I have I mean, this may just be a whole, bag of false memories. Who knows? I'm very bad. I have a very spotty, vague memory. But I don't think I threw out anything, and it was just, yeah. So I mean, I could just, I too had I had a weird kind of, like I said, gleefulness about those line breaks. I mean, I'm very scared of heights, but it felt like with these 5 words, it was like, oh, you could just be sort of, charging along the path, and all of a sudden there's a cliff.
Right.
And normally that would be something I really wouldn't want, but in this case, it was like I could go right up to that edge.
So the feeling of readers is vertiginous as well. Falling off the cliff. I want to collect from Max and Molly quick further responses, because we were heading in that direction, and then bring Mark Snyder back in, and then we'll see where we go from there. Max, any thoughts on this poem that you'd like to add? We've all talked about it a lot, but it seems like we could keep talking about it because it keeps rewarding the attention. Max?
Sure, and I'm noticing this time, we're noticing again, the full stop or the period following every fragment, that the fragments are not left open, but rather are closed by that punctuation. So I guess I'm wondering a little bit more about Bob's choice there, what that's doing. I mean, it kind of creates this sense of at once abruptness, but also of a kind of closure and self-contained
I'll add something
meaning.
to that. See if we get Bob's response. That makes them not modernist fragments, but language new sentences. They become sentences rather than merely fragments. Does that make sense, Bob?
Well, I certainly know what you mean, and I thought about the period, not period. I think that was the one decision that I really wasn't sure about, and I think I typed it up both ways. And this was, gosh, was this back in the day when you typed things? And I think it was.
Maybe so, depending on
we're talking
what
about
you had acquired.
what they used to call writing on a typewriter.
Typewriting.
Typewriting, electric typewriter.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, no, I finally, I guess, without the periods, it's a little too pretty and poetic, which is an adjective that I'm very pro poetry, but I'm anti-poetic, I guess.
Yes, that's true. Can we let's go to Molly for one last contribution to this discussion about the poem, and then we'll go to Mark.
Yeah, I'm really, I'm surprised to hear that you didn't know Lee Hickman that well, because this poem is so personal, and I guess it makes sense that maybe it's a little bit more universal. And I just wonder how it would have been different if this had sprung from maybe somebody in your family being diagnosed or somebody else that was closer to you. Would it have been more or less, the poem have been more or less personal?
I think it would have been harder to write, more turgid. I don't know. I mean, I somehow think not knowing Lee, except for the sense of respect for him, and real a sadness that this was happening. But yeah, I didn't think it had to be about him. I mean, I just thought it had to be about being alive. So I think a line like "Midnight the pain" is practically, but that in a way, I didn't go there very much. Another line that is definitely in my memory, directed at Lee, is near the end, and it's a complete sentence. Like a few of them are complete sentences, and I decided not to worry about that as I was doing it. I thought, well, a couple of complete sentences are fine, but you don't have that choice. Yeah. It's a very complete sentence, and I was thinking that this was really addressed to Lee, but it's addressed to everybody, and myself, and etc. But you're right, I mean, the not knowing him gave me that weird compositional sort of largesse or carelessness, insouciance.
It was also a cultural moment, and a moment of people feeling on the outside and all that. So you needed to do more work than simply talk about a person